You ever think about what happens after the big win? The mission's a success, the goal is finally met, and you get to take that well-deserved rest. But what if that rest, what if that comfort becomes the biggest threat you'll ever face? Today, we're going to dig into a leader's final warning about the hidden danger that doesn't come from failure, but from success itself.
Okay, let's just start with this. Because this right here, this is the thought that keeps leaders up at night. It's this bone-chilling idea that no matter how incredible your victory is, if you fail to pass on the vision, the why behind it all, everything you've built can just vanish in a single generation. And this fear, it was at the very heart of the story we're looking at today.
So let's set the scene with our first section, a leader's final warning. We're talking about Joshua. This is a guy at the very end of a long, amazing career. He has led his people through impossible battles, brought them into a new homeland. He's done it all. But now, as he's about to step down, he isn't planning a victory lap. Nope, he's delivering one last urgent message.
And what's so fascinating here is what he's not talking about. He's not building up his own legacy, he's not giving a speech about all his greatest hits. His entire focus is looking outward and forward. He's pointing to what God has done for them, he's zeroing in on the critical choices his people now face, and most of all, he's worried about whether the mission itself is going to survive him.
This is the perfect metaphor, isn't it? Joshua saw his entire life's work as just one leg in a much, much longer relay race. It wasn't the Joshua show. He knew his part was coming to an end, and the single most important thing he could do now was to make sure that baton was passed cleanly to the next generation.
So why was he so worried? Things were good. And that gets us to our next section, wilderness versus the promised land. See, to really get why Joshua was so concerned, you have to understand the night and day difference in his people's circumstances. They had gone from a life of constant grinding struggle to a life of, unprecedented comfort.
You gotta picture this. In their new home, life was finally stable. The constant nagging anxiety of where's our next meal coming from was gone. They had houses, they had fields that produced food, they had peace. It was literally everything they had been fighting for. But Joshua saw danger in it, a subtle poison hidden inside all that goodness.
And this slide just lays it out perfectly. On one side, you have the struggle in the wilderness. Life was defined by dependence, constant uncertainty, always worried about supplies, and having to lean on God every single day just to make it. But on the other side, comfort, control. Life now had predictable rhythms, overflowing harvests, and a growing sense that, hey, we've got this handled ourselves.
And that right there, that is the heart of the issue. It's a massive psychological shift. All that hardship in their past forced them to look outside of themselves for help. But all this new prosperity, all this stability, it created this powerful feeling of self-reliance, this sense that they were finally the masters of their own destiny.
This feeling, this new sense of control, leads us straight to our third section, and to the real enemy Joshua was fighting in his final days, the comfort of complacency. And this enemy wasn't an army with swords and shields. It was an internal state of mind, a dangerous side effect of their own hard-won success.
So what is complacency, really? It's more than just being lazy. It's this drowsy, numbing feeling that starts to creep in when things are going well. That sense of urgency, that sharp edge that kept you focused and hungry, it starts to get dull. And that's when the slow, gradual decline begins.
Now, the result of this was so subtle but absolutely devastating. It wasn't like they suddenly stopped believing in God. It's just that he went from being essential, like air and water, to being, nice to have. As their own abilities and their own harvest grew, his perceived role in their day-to-day life just shrank. And that's what terrified Joshua.
Okay, so this wasn't just some abstract feeling. This creeping complacency had very real, very tangible consequences. And that brings us to section 4, a mission unfinished, because their state of mind was causing their actual primary mission to stall out.
Here's the paradox they were living in. They had won the war. God had given them the land. He'd given them rest from their enemies. Check and check. And yet, the job wasn't 100% complete. There were still these small pockets of the enemy scattered throughout the land. The big fight was over, but the cleanup wasn't.
And you can see exactly how it happens on this slide. This is the classic pattern for how a mission just grinds to a halt. First, you hit the main objective. Awesome. Then, you take a little break, a period of rest. But pretty soon, that rest stops feeling like a break and starts feeling like the new normal. And once that happens, the motivation to go back and finish those last few tedious jobs just evaporates. And finally, compromise starts to feel a lot more reasonable than conviction.
And that is precisely what happened. The original mission was clear: drive out all the remaining tribes. But, that sounded like a lot of work. These remaining groups weren't a huge, immediate threat, so they just got content. They started living alongside them, settling for good enough, and leaving the job incomplete.
So this is the whole backdrop for Joshua's final speech. He's looking out at his people, he sees them getting soft, soaking in the comfort of a job 90% done, their mission is stalling out, and he knows he has one last chance, one last shot to try and reignite that fire.
I mean, what do you do in that spot? Your team has lost its edge. Comfort has replaced that burning conviction. How do you get them back in the game? Do you yell at them? Give them new marching orders? Threaten them? What's the play?
Joshua does something absolutely brilliant. He understands a fundamental truth. You can't command passion. You can't order someone to be committed. That has to come from the inside. So he doesn't give them another order. He frames the whole thing as a choice.
He hits them with this powerful, timeless challenge. He reminds them of everything God has done, lays it all out, and then he draws a line in the sand. He's basically saying, look, this isn't on me anymore. This is on you. You have to decide right here, right now, what you're really about. Who are you going to serve?
And that, of course, brings this entire story right back to us, doesn't it? Because this isn't just some ancient history lesson. This is a pattern that plays out in our jobs, in our families, in our own personal lives. So the question Joshua leaves ringing in our ears is this one. What important, unfinished business in your life have you stopped pushing for, simply because things got comfortable enough to let it slide?